Hi everyone, this is Shalu Kumar again from OSCE Nurse Training Cambridge. I'm an experienced OSCE Nurse trainer for the NMC OSCE exam in UK and also the lead trainer for OSCE Nurse Training Cambridge. So welcome back to my another YouTube video on my ONTC channel. So if you like my videos, please press the like button now and subscribe to my channel. So today's video, very interesting one because it's a very common fail in your NMC OSCE exam. So I really do want to cover this topic with you to help you to tell you what is the correct way of doing the ID check and allergy check in your exam. It means how to identify your patient correctly. Now, why there are so many fails on this? Because it seems like a basic thing, but a lot of nurses fail it because they don't do it methodically, they don't do it systematically, and because it's related to patient safety. If you cannot identify your patients correctly, you cannot provide safe care. So your examiner will automatically fail you in the station if you do not carry out the ID check and allergy status check according to correctly according to NMC guidance. Okay, so that's what you need to be able to do correctly to pass your exam, and it applies across so many different stations. It applies to your assessment station, implementation station, any skills where you're giving drugs where they don't tell you that ID check and allergy check is already complete. So if you're giving drugs, like say all your stations where you give drugs in clinical skills, you have to identify your patient correctly yourself. Okay, your examiner is never going to tell you that ID check means pre-checks means ID and allergy is already completed. They will never tell you that. So you have to identify your patient correctly and have to identify their allergy status correctly. So that's what we're going to go through, and I will just keep it simple like I do with my training, and simply explain it to you how to do it correctly. Okay, so let's look at it. So it is the main reason, I'm afraid it is a really common reason for failing OSCE in so many different stations. When you get feedback, then you just go, wow, that was a simple thing, how can I get that wrong? But so many nurses just do it very quickly in a rushed way and end up failing the exam. So let's see then, if this is very common reason for failing, how can we make sure that we do it correctly? Okay, so that's the first slide. So let's look at the next slide. Is so if you know that your scenarios can be set up in hospital kind of environment, or you could get a community scenario. So how do you do ID check and allergy check correctly in according to different scenarios? So let's look at the hospital patient first. So if you got hospital patient scenario and you need to do the ID check, so how do you do it? I normally say this in my training as a 3-point check. It means what your patient says should matches what's written in on their ID band and should matches your documentation. Now your documentation could be different in different station. In assessment station is patient history form. If you go into implementation, is the MARC chart. If you have clinical skills and they want you to give medication, they will give you some kind of prescription. So your patient details and allergy status is on that prescription. So you need to make sure that it's a 3-point check. What patient says matches what is written on the ID band and also an allergy band and also matches your documentation. So that's the way to do it. So let's look at the ID check first. So for the ID check, what you need to do is you need to ask for name of the patient if they are in hospital. So the name, date of birth and MRN number. So MNR number is the medical record number. So every patient admitted to a hospital will have given allocated a MRN number. Okay, so that's what it means. So you ask your patient the name, then you look at their ID band and say, okay, I can see that's clearly written on ID band, and then you go to the correct page of your documentation where you find the patient detail and then look at that and verbalize that is correct in your documentation. Then you ask them the date of birth, then you look at their ID band that the date of birth is correct and then match it to your paperwork. And then also, now patient doesn't know the hospital number, but it's written on their ID band. So just match it from the ID band to your documentation. So make sure you do it in that order. So, okay, remember to ask the patient all these details and then check them on their ID band, physically check them. Okay, make sure that you're verbalizing, I am checking these details, because in exam you may be looking But if you're not verbalizing it, it's not done. Okay, so verbalize that you're looking at that on the ID band, and then you're matching to the correct page of your documentation, because a lot of documents do not have any ID details on the front page. So you will have to open the document to go to the correct page to do that check against your documentation. So what you're saying is this document belongs to this patient and their ID band and is correct as well. So that's the first thing. Now, how do you do the allergy check for a hospital patient? So that's the next slide. So you ask the patient what they're allergic to, and you look at their allergy band. Red band normally is allergy band. So look at it and say, okay, I can see that's clearly written on your allergy band. And then you look at your document as well and match it to your document, because allergy status is given in your document. And then you also do not forget to ask for the reaction of the allergy. Now, it may not be written on the allergy band, but it will definitely be written in your paperwork, okay, in your whatever document they given you to do the ID and allergy check. So make sure you ask for reaction. If you do not ask for reaction, it's a critical fail. Okay, asking allergy status is not enough. You do need to ask that, but you also need to say to the patient, okay, what reaction do you get with this allergy, and then match it, check it against your document and say, I can clearly see it's written in my document. Okay, so that's how you do the ID check and allergy check correctly. So now moving on to community scenario, next slide. So what happens in community scenario? How is it different? It's different because your patient in community could be the setup of nursing home, care home, patient own house, GP surgery, whatever it is. But community patient don't walk around with ID bands and allergy bands on their hands. So it means you do not have ID band, allergy band. So I call it 2-point check. It means you need to check what your patient says for ID details and allergy status and match it to your document. So you do not have to look at the ID band, allergy band. Okay, so that point is, that kind of process is missing. So it's the verbal check. Verbally ask the patient their name, their date of birth. That's enough. But if you like to, you can also ask them for the first line of address. Okay, so ask those details and then check it and verbalize it in your document that I can clearly see it matches my document, and go to the correct page of the document. Okay, front page is not always the correct page. So have a look at that. So again, now community allergy check, again your patient is not wearing a red band, so you will just verbally ask them physically what they're allergic to and what is the reaction, and then go and check in your notes, does your document says the same allergy and the same reaction. Okay, so that's the systematic way of doing things, and do not rush it, because if normally ID check, allergy check is done in the beginning of the station. If you don't get this correctly, then you already failed the station. Okay, because you cannot show that you are a safe practitioner if you cannot identify your patient correctly. Okay, and check that against your document. Okay, so that's the process. So what fails you in this? I already pointed out to you these things as I was going through the video, but just let's quickly look at it. What's the reason for fail? Reason for fail is not asking for all the details. So you might just ask name, date of birth, but you haven't looked at the hospital number for hospital patient, so that would be a fail. Okay, you do need to look at 3 things for hospital patient: name, date of birth, and hospital number, and match it to your document, and also look at their ID band. Okay, another thing is not checking or not looking and verbalizing that you are checking on the ID band and allergy bands. I already said to you, you might be doing it with your eyes, but if you're not verbalizing, oh, I can see that clearly written on your ID band, I can see that clearly written on your allergy band, then examiner will take it being not done. Now, your eyes might be moving and looking at things, but that does not count in OSCE exam, and that's why I make it very clear in my training when I teach, when I support you guys to prepare for your OSCE. Just point out every single thing. Okay, little things fails you in exam, and you need to know how to do correctly and what examiner is expecting you to do. So examiner is expecting you to verbalize that you're checking on the ID band and you're checking your document. So it would be like, yeah, I can see your name is this, I can see that's clearly written on your ID band, and I can see now here in my document that's clearly written that that's your name and that's your date of birth. So you need to ask name, date of birth, and patient doesn't know the MRN number, but it's written on their ID band, check that against your document and clearly say, I can see your MRN number is, for example, 12345. I can see that's clearly written in my document, same number. Okay, so that's the way to do it. Next thing is right, so you know verbalizing that it matches your documentation. So if you're looking at your documentation, you need to look at it and then say, yes, I can see this clearly written in my document. And the last most important thing is not pretending, because sometimes when you pretend, you saying it, oh yeah, I can see that's clearly written in my document, but you are on a page where examiner clearly knows there is no ID detail or allergy details on that page. Like say the front of the document in assessment station doesn't have any detail, mark chart doesn't have any ID details or allergy details on the front page. So when you practice, build in your practice that you're doing it correctly, and when you do an exam, make sure you are not pretending. Make sure you're going and looking for those details in real time in your document and verbalizing that you're looking at it in real time and they matches your document. Okay, so that was kind of my top tips for you, and so you don't end up making these mistakes and do not end up failing your NMC OSCE just for the simple thing of ID check and allergy check. Like I said, it's simple, but it's really, really important because it's patient safety. Okay, so I hope you like the video. And if you do, please press the like button now and subscribe to my channel. You can visit us on OSCEnurstraining.com. You can also email us about our training prices or any other information you need about our training on OSCEnurstraining@outlook.com. And I will soon be back with another video for you. And don't forget to go and check our reviews on our Google page. And bye for now, and I will see you soon.